Hey everybody. So episode 7 of Teen Wolf season 4 aired this week, and it was a very infectious episode. We start off the episode with a new assassin. We see him in a lab, and he's running tests and experimenting on werewolves and such, and we see a dying werewolf who actually, this is a fun fact right here, the werewolf that they show is actually Tyler Posey's stunt double. I think he's a stunt double as well. So that was really cool. But anyways, when the werewolf starts making noise, like getting all angry because they can't control themselves when they're poisoned by that stuff that we saw Satomi's pack was killed by. So the assassin, he just turns on a cassette tape, starts drinking his tea, and it's one of those same cassette tapes, I guess, that the benefactors sent out. And it basically gives directions on how to get their payments when they kill someone. And right then we flip over to Scott and Stiles and see them listening to the tape and then trying to figure out what to do with the money that they found in Garrett's locker, which is, by the way, $500,000. Yeah. And really, we had another one of those Scott oblivious moments, just the way sometimes Stiles is like, really, Scott? And this has been since season 1. Just, y'all know what I mean, when he's talking about giving the money back to Derek and stuff, and Stiles is like, yeah, but like they were talking about giving the money back, and Stiles was like, well, you're not going to give $500,000 to Peter. And so Scott was like, what about Derek? And it was very interesting because Stiles is so smart, and he's like, he knows Peter is not an ally. He is still an enemy. He's just kind of like cruising along like with the pack, on the borders of the pack, and finding out what's what, and he's just waiting to strike. Y'all know Peter. So let's talk about what happened with everyone throughout the episode. Scott, Stiles, Kira, and Malia go to the school to take the PSATs. The new assassin is there, and he like distributes the test, and he has this ink, the ink pad, when they have to put their thumbprint or whatever on the test or something, it is poison. That is how they get infected. So, and that is, it's a modified strain of canine distemper, which is interesting, and it's really deadly for werewolves and different supernatural creatures. I'm assuming it would hurt Lydia as well. Maybe not. I don't know, because she's immune to werewolf bites and stuff like that. But she's a supernatural, so it would have hurt her. Some other things that happen with all of them are Scott starts losing control. They all start losing control over themselves when they get sick. They have to go down to the Hale vault and kind of trick Malia into opening it without telling her she's a Hale, because apparently only a Hale can open it. They find it, by the way, they find another entrance to the Hale vault, because they always have a second entrance to their little hideouts, the Hales. And it's in the school behind like a shelf or something. It's not very well concealed. I don't know. But once they're in there, things just really take a turn for the worse and get really bad. And Malia she loses her sight. Scott does, Kira does. They just start losing all their senses, just start going out, and they just start losing control fully. And, other things that happen are Stiles has to go and pacify, kind of just cover up where Scott and Malia and Kira are, by going to just check things out and see how things are going. And apparently that the virus or whatever is wearing off of the humans, but of course not Scott and them, because it was meant for them. And Coach was also infected. That we saw him sick in the last episode. He was infected because he was using the ink pad to stamp some stuff. And yeah, something really cool we found out. I like when we find out names of characters, first names. We find out Lydia's mom's first name is Natalie, because she goes and checks on Coach, and because he's supposed to be monitoring the tests and stuff with her. And she calls him Bobby, and she's like, says it's Natalie, and they just start, she tries to wake him up. She thinks he's drunk and that he's drinking again, because apparently he's an alcoholic and all that. Well, we all pretty much knew that he was. He said it once before, I believe. But anyways, they've got some kind of some history, which I really want to touch in on that and find out what that history is. Malia finds out once she's cured what her parentage is. Well, she finds out she's a Hale. She sees the note that was in Styles' jacket, the list of the Deadpool, and she's not happy. She just leaves Scott and Kira just right when she's better. She like doesn't say anything to Styles. She just leaves. But this is after there was a really, gosh, I hate that I'm liking Stalia in a way, because I'm a big Stydia shipper. But they are a really great couple. I don't think they'll last forever, but one part that just really touched me was the scene where Malia and Styles are talking, and he says it's right before he has to go and like cover their tracks that they're not where they're supposed to be with all the other students. And he's like, he tells her, she asks if he's coming back, and he says, yeah, he'd never leave her. And he kisses her on the forehead. And then when he leaves, she starts crying. And I'm like, oh my God, that's just seriously, that was too much. We find out that the cure all along is this in a mason jar in the vault, which I will touch back on in 1 second after telling y'all what happened with Derek in the episode, because this ties in. Everything ties in. It's just easier to talk about what happens to the different characters separately throughout the episode. Derek saves Braden. He brings her to the hospital. That's him. When this episode starts, he saves Braden, brings her to the hospital because she's been shot and stuff and is dying. She tells him that everybody in Satomi's pack was infected. Satomi comes into the episode, and I'm really excited about that. She comes in and she makes her entrance by having a little fight with Deaton, kind of just like a show-off fight. And it's really interesting seeing that and seeing how Deaton knows these other werewolf packs. And I just want to see more of that. Like Deaton's connections and stuff like that. That's really cool. I like that. I loved that. It was such a different type of scene. Because she basically brings, because he's a veterinarian, but also kind of he helps supernatural creatures and as much as he can. But she brings one of her pack members that's dying, and he tries to figure out what's going on and how to help him. But all they really find out is it's a variant of canine distemper, and it's deadly to werewolves and stuff. So there's the whole, this is where Derek and Satomi's story ties together. And it was so sweet. I love when they talk about Derek's family, like back in the day. They go down the memory lane, and she's like saying, you just remind me so much of Talia. And they start talking about this tea she used to bring Talia. And Deaton's like, all of a sudden, like, what kind of tea was it? And she goes, reishi, wild purple reishi. And Deaton says it's so rare. And they were wondering if they could find it in time to save everybody at the school. Scott and Kira and Malia. And basically, Derek's like, yeah, we have a jar of it in the Hale vault. So it's where they are, Scott, Styles, Kira, and Malia have been. The cure's right under their noses. And Kira even saw the mason jar with it, right when they walked in, before losing their sight. So basically they have to take that reishi, that tea or whatever, to get better. And we see Styles go trying to get in the door, and it's closed, and Scott can barely move, but they tell him, and Scott, I guess his hearing is getting bad, and he just can't hardly hear, but Kira hears what it is, and she tells Scott where it is, pretty much, that it's in there. And Scott, he can't see with his human eyes, but when he turns on his, like, alpha eyes, his werewolf eyes, he, like, looks around, and then all of a sudden, I didn't understand this. I was like, it kind of, I don't know, it was kind of silly, but it was cool at the same time. The jar was, like, glowing. Like, he's, like, scanning. It's like, glowing. I don't know. But anyways, he goes and tries to grab it, but then ends up just knocking it down. But that's all they needed. Knocked down the particles and all the stuff. Just flew into the air and it got them better. Let's talk about Lydia this episode because, oh my gosh, so many feels for her this episode. I love her. She is my absolute favorite female character. We see her at the lake house again. She's trying to get in touch with Meredith to get her help some more, even though Meredith is dead. She's trying to use her banshee powers to do that, and she can't really get in touch with her so much as she just tells her she's so sorry she couldn't save her, and I teared up in this scene. It was really sad, and they really have been evolving Lydia's character this season, and I like that it's not such like a season for her like with romance and stuff. We're really getting to know, like, getting down and gritty with the character with Lydia, and like really just she's discovering herself so much this season. She's been doing it every season, but this season, like, she's discovering her powers, she's discovering so much about herself and who she is, and it's really just, it's great. She has a box of Meredith's things, and it basically, nobody claimed it, I guess, and I don't know how she got it. I guess Sheriff Stilinski gave it to her to see if it could help her out. But she opens it up, and one thing she finds, which is really shocking, she finds a photograph of Meredith in the lake house. And she's like, she's just, it's just a total shock. But the next time we see Lydia, it's pretty much the next time, she goes to the school and she sees that the school's quarantined off. And she goes up to Sheriff Stilinski and he's like, ask her if she has a feeling someone's going to die. And she's like, it's not just a feeling this time, someone's going to die. So, yeah. And you know who it was that died? That asshole assassin. Yeah, you dead, dude. You don't point a gun at Styles' head and live to tell the tale. Well, that's what I say. But yeah, he when he was trying to find where they were all hiding, he pointed a gun to Styles' head, and then Scott's dad shoots him through the head, and he's just dead. So I didn't expect it, like Scott's dad to do that. He was just like so blasé about it. And he was passed on the message to tell Styles about the race sheet. And he like just has no idea why he's telling him this and what it's about, or that his son is like dying. But Melissa had sent him in there to tell Styles and them about that. I love these oblivious moments that he has. I'm sure he's going to find out. I think he's probably going to find out by the end of the season about the werewolves and stuff. Unless he already knows and just doesn't play on. Maybe he's the benefactor. Right now, everyone's game. I don't know. It could be Danny. It could be Greenberg. It could be Peter. Peter's not on the list. Could be Gerard. It could be, I don't know. I could go on forever. But this episode was awesome. And Satomi totally owned. I really like seeing her back. One thing I didn't catch, and I caught it later on after rewatching some of the episode, was there was one more assassin this episode that went after Satomi and Derek, and basically we don't even notice it really until it's pointed out. She's like crying in the waiting area at the hospital, and I didn't even notice it at first. But at one point one of the last scenes with Satomi this episode, the elevator doors open and she comes out. She's like, "Oh yeah, I'm badass. I'm gonna kill you." Yeah, dude, no. Satomi's like got major skills. She just killed her in a flash. It took her just a couple seconds. She was dead. 2 assassins down. Just just leave Beacon Hills, y'all. Please leave our peeps alone. This episode was great. I don't know if y'all noticed Liam was not in the episode, but I guess he wasn't really needed. He wasn't going to be taking the PSATs, even though Lydia took hers her freshman year, but that's Lydia. She's Lydia, and that's all I really need to explain about that. She's just so smart. There was a lot of great character development this episode, and just we found out so many new things about the different characters. I really can't wait to learn more about Lydia Martin's family and just how Meredith wound up in Lydia's grandmother's lake house. I hope y'all enjoyed this recap and review. Continue to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all next week. Bye.